There are moments in life when the heart feels heavy, when the world feels loud, and when our souls quietly whisper that they are tired. And in those moments, Allah gives us doors of light, doors that open not with our hands, but with our intention. One of those doors is Surah Yaseen. Every morning, when the world is still waking up and our hearts are searching for direction, Surah Yaseen becomes more than just a recitation. It becomes an awakening. It becomes a reminder that even before we face people, deadlines, struggles, or fears, we are held by the one who never leaves us. Surah Yaseen realigns the heart, softens the soul, and gently brings us back to the purpose we forget in the rush of life. To begin your day with Surah Yaseen is to begin with clarity. It is to say, Ya Allah, guide me before the world can pull me. It is to wrap your morning with a layer of divine protection, divine mercy, and divine wisdom. Because Allah doesn't just give us words, He gives us healing. And Surah Yaseen is one of the most powerful forms of healing we can offer our hearts each morning. When we talk about the importance of beginning our morning with Surah Yaseen, we are not just talking about a ritual, a routine, or a habit. We are talking about a profound spiritual experience that reshapes the way your heart wakes up to the world. There is something deeply transformative about reciting words that were sent as mercy, as guidance, as comfort, and as a reminder of who we are and who we belong to. The world pulls us in so many directions. We wake up with noise inside our minds, with worries we did not choose, with emotions we did not ask for, and with responsibilities that sometimes feel heavier than our own bodies. But there is a moment, quiet, subtle, almost hidden, when we choose what the first nourishment of our heart will be. And if that nourishment is Surah Yaseen, something inside us begins to shift. When you recite Surah Yaseen in the morning, you are not simply reading words, you are anchoring your soul before the day tries to shake it. You are reminding your heart that before the world demands anything from you, Allah has already given you everything you need: guidance, clarity, reassurance, and strength. Surah Yaseen has this ability to reach the parts of you that you don't speak about, the parts that feel unseen, unheard, or misunderstood. It's like Allah is saying, begin with me. Begin with my words. Begin with something eternal before you face what is temporary. And this is why mornings matter, because how you begin often shapes everything that follows. There are people who begin their mornings with the news, with messages, with stress, with noise. And there are people who begin their mornings with the words of Allah. The difference is not just spiritual, it is emotional, psychological, and deeply personal. Surah Yaseen shifts the energy of your entire day. It brings your heart into a state where you are not reacting to the world, but responding through the lens of faith. It reminds you that your provisions, your purpose, your path, and your protection are all in the hands of Allah. And when the heart remembers its source, its struggles become lighter. One of the most powerful aspects of Surah Yaseen is the way it softens the heart. There is a verse, a rhythm, a divine flow in its recitation that gently loosens the knots inside you. It reminds you that you are not walking into this day alone. It reminds you that even when you feel overwhelmed, Allah's mercy is greater than whatever is overwhelming you. Each verse becomes like a soft knock on the heart, calling it back from fear, from confusion, from exhaustion, from loneliness. You begin to feel a quiet strength rising within you, not the loud kind, not the kind people see on the outside, but the quiet strength that only Allah can plant inside a believer. In Surah Yaseen, Allah describes His signs, His power, His creation, His mercy, and the reality of life and death. When you recite it at the start of your day, your heart becomes more aware of the bigger picture. The things that usually trouble you begin to feel smaller. The burdens that weigh heavily on your soul start to feel lighter. You begin to see your challenges differently. Not as punishments, not as barriers, but as parts of a journey that has been written with divine wisdom. And this shift in perception is one of the greatest gifts Allah gives us through His words. Beginning your day with Surah Yaseen is like reminding your soul that it was created for something greater than stress and routine. It reconnects you with your purpose. It reorients your heart toward the one who controls every outcome. It teaches you that nothing you face today is outside the scope of Allah's mercy. It reminds you that every difficulty has a meaning, every delay has wisdom, and every moment is part of a design that is more beautiful than we can understand. There is a moment right after reciting Surah Yaseen, when the heart feels more alive, more aware, more awake than the body. It is that feeling of clarity that settles into your chest, like a reassurance that Allah has already gone ahead of you, paved your path, and protected your steps. And with that reassurance, your day becomes less frightening, less overwhelming, and less confusing. You start to walk with a sense of trust, a sense of surrender, a sense of peace that does not come from the world, but from the words of the one who created the world. Every verse of Surah Yaseen carries reminders that you desperately need in the morning. Reminders that this life is temporary. Reminders that your struggles are not unnoticed. Reminders that Allah's knowledge encompasses everything you fear and everything you hope for. Reminders that Allah can bring life to what feels dead, your motivation, your heart, your dreams, your purpose. Reminders that nothing is impossible when Allah says be. And these reminders become like spiritual nourishment that carries you through the rest of your day. When you start your day with Surah Yaseen, you are starting with remembrance. And remembrance is what softens the heart, purifies the intention, and protects the soul. You find yourself more patient with people, more grateful for the small blessings, more aware of Allah's presence in the ordinary details of your day. You begin to see that the things you worried about are not as heavy as your heart made them. You begin to feel that Allah is gently guiding you towards something better, even if you can't see it yet. There are parts of Surah Yaseen that remind you of life after death, of accountability, of standing before Allah. When you begin your morning with these reminders, you naturally live the day with more consciousness. Your decisions become more thoughtful. Your words become more careful. Your heart becomes more sincere. You start to prioritize what truly matters and let go of what does not. And this is one of the deepest reasons why Surah Yaseen is so powerful in the morning. It aligns your heart with your purpose before the world distracts you from it. Surah Yaseen also has a way of healing emotional wounds that you don't know how to express. Sometimes you wake up with heaviness you cannot explain, sadness you cannot name, or fatigue that goes beyond the body. And in those moments, the recitation of Surah Yaseen becomes like a spiritual embrace, a reminder that Allah knows the things you hide. He knows the battles you fight silently. He knows the prayers you whisper only in your heart. His words reach the places where people cannot reach you. They comfort you in ways that conversations cannot. And this is why starting your day with Surah Yaseen is an act of self-compassion. You are giving your soul the healing it needs before you face the world that often drains you. When the Prophet encouraged us to recite Surah Yaseen, it was for reasons that go beyond what we can measure. It was because these words carry blessings we cannot compute, protection we cannot see, and mercy we cannot fully understand. You may not notice it every day, but the spiritual protection, the barakah, the clarity, and the strength you receive from beginning your morning with Surah Yaseen become evident in the way you handle life, the way you respond to tests, the way you carry yourself, the way your heart feels calmer than your circumstances. As you move through your day after reciting Surah Yaseen, you will notice subtle changes. You will notice that conversations feel easier, decisions feel clearer, and challenges feel more manageable. You will notice that your heart returns to Allah more quickly when it becomes distracted or afraid. You will notice that your mind feels more disciplined, your emotions feel more grounded, and your intentions feel more pure. And all of this begins with those few minutes in the morning when you sit with the Qur'an. There is a spiritual principle that Allah teaches through experience. What you give your heart to in the morning shapes what your heart becomes attached to for the rest of the day. If you begin with stress, you carry stress. If you begin with distraction, you chase distraction. But if you begin with the words of Allah, you carry light, you carry purpose, you carry peace. And this is one of the greatest secrets of starting your day with Surah Yaseen. Surah Yaseen is not just important because of the blessings attached to it, though those blessings are immense. It is important because of what it does to your heart. It purifies. It centers. It awakens. And in a world that constantly pulls us away from Allah, anything that brings us back is precious. Beginning your morning with Surah Yaseen is like giving your heart the reminder it needs most, that Allah is near, that Allah is in control, that Allah's mercy is greater than the fears you walk into, that Allah's guidance is more reliable than the plans you try to make on your own. There are moments in life when we walk into a new day without realizing how many unseen things await us. We wake up, we breathe, we rise, and we step outside with plans, schedules, and expectations. But the reality is that so much of what happens between sunrise and sunset is written in a realm we cannot see. There are challenges that never announce their arrival, trials that never introduce themselves, and moments that shift our entire day without warning. And because we live in a world that contains both visible and invisible forces, Allah, in His mercy, gave us ways to protect ourselves from what we cannot control. One of the most beautiful, powerful, and spiritually protective shields He gifted us is the recitation of Surah Yaseen in the morning. When you begin your day with Surah Yaseen, you are not just reciting words, you are placing a veil of divine protection around your heart, your mind, and your path. There are things you see and things you don't see. You see the traffic, but you don't see the decree that Allah diverts away from you. You see the people you interact with, but you don't see the envy, the ill intention, the negativity, or the harm that Allah shields you from. You see the problems that do reach you, but you don't see the countless ones that never make it to your doorstep because Allah blocked them before they ever touched you. Surah Yaseen is one of the ways Allah places that protection around a believer. There is a deep spiritual truth many people overlook. The Qur'an does not just guide, it defends. It lifts, it shields, it prevents, it blocks, it redirects. It stands in front of you like a divine armor. When you recite Surah Yaseen in the morning, you are asking Allah to protect you from what you cannot see, what you cannot predict, and what you cannot understand. And Allah, in His mercy, responds in ways you may never be aware of. That is the nature of His protection. It is often silent. It is unseen. It is hidden. Yet it is powerful beyond measure. Imagine walking into your day with burdens you don't yet know about, obstacles that were supposed to cross your path, words that were supposed to hurt you, situations that were supposed to break you, people who were supposed to drain you. But instead, something stops them, something redirects them, something delays them, something softens them. And that something is not random. It is not coincidence. It is not luck. It is Allah's response to your morning recitation of His words. It is Allah saying, because you remembered me at the start of your day, I will remember you throughout your day. Surah Yaseen does something to the believer that cannot be measured with the physical eye. It strengthens the spiritual immunity of the heart. Just like the body needs protection from physical illness, the soul needs protection from spiritual harm. Doubt, despair, anxiety, hopelessness, darkness. These things are spiritual illnesses that often come from directions we do not expect. But when you recite Surah Yaseen in the morning, you fortify your heart. You create a barrier inside yourself that makes it harder for these spiritual illnesses to enter. You create a shield that keeps your heart aligned, guarded, and connected, even as the world tries to pull you away. There is a subtle beauty in the way Surah Yaseen works as protection. It is not loud. It is not dramatic. It does not show itself the way worldly protection does, but it is consistent. It is steady. It is firm. It is the kind of protection that prevents you from collapsing emotionally when something unexpected happens. It keeps your heart from falling apart when you encounter something difficult. It slows down your anxiety. It quiets your fears. It prevents your mind from spiraling. This too is protection. Not every form of divine protection is about preventing hardship. Sometimes it is about softening it. Sometimes it is about giving you strength before it reaches you. Sometimes it is about making you patient. Sometimes it is about making you calm. Sometimes it is about protecting your faith inside the storm. Many people think protection means nothing difficult will happen, but in reality, protection means that whatever happens will not destroy you. It will not break your relationship with Allah. It will not push you into despair. It will not take you away from His mercy. And Surah Yaseen prepares your heart in this way. It doesn't promise the absence of hardship, but it strengthens your heart so that hardship cannot overpower your spirit. When you recite Surah Yaseen in the morning, you are saying to Allah, I trust you with my day. I trust you with what I cannot see. I trust you with the things I am afraid of. I trust you with the things that might threaten my peace. I trust you with the things that are written for me and the things that are being protected from me. And Allah, in His generosity, never leaves a heart empty-handed when it asks Him for protection through His words. There are believers who walk through life unaware of how many miracles happen behind the scenes, how many near misses were prevented, how many dangers were turned away, how many people with harmful intentions were blocked from reaching them, how many accidents were delayed, how many illnesses were softened, how many heartbreaks were redirected, how many silent storms were dissolved before they ever formed. And sometimes the heart wonders, why do I feel safe even when things around me seem unstable? The answer often lies in the connection you build with Allah at the start of your day. Surah Yaseen carries verses that remind the believer of Allah's absolute control over life and death, over harm and benefit, over what unfolds and what is withheld. These reminders recalibrate the heart. They remove reliance on people, on systems, on outcomes, and place all reliance back where it belongs, on the one who protects without being asked, who saves without being seen, who guards without being noticed. When you recite Surah Yaseen, you are handing your vulnerabilities to Allah. You are placing your trust in the one who never miscalculates. You are acknowledging that your strength is limited, your foresight is limited, your awareness is limited. And because these limitations exist, you seek the protection of the one who is unlimited. There are moments in the day when a believer feels emotionally attacked by negativity, comments that sting, situations that drain, misunderstandings that escalate, disappointments that wound the heart. Surah Yaseen shields the believer from internalizing these harms. It gives the heart resilience. It gives the mind clarity. It gives the emotions balance. Instead of absorbing pain in a way that breaks you, you begin to absorb it in a way that shapes you. Instead of collapsing under pressure, you begin to rise through it. This too is divine protection. The unseen world is real. The spiritual realm exists. There are forces that influence the mind, the emotions, the environment, the relationships around us. The believer does not fear these forces because the believer carries the words of Allah as a shield. Surah Yaseen strengthens this shield. It places spiritual light in front of you, behind you, above you, and within you. Light that burns through darkness. Light that stands between you and what is harmful. Light that guides your steps even when your path feels uncertain. There are hardships written for every soul, but there are also protections written for every soul. And sometimes the protection reaches you before the hardship does. Sometimes the hardship reaches you and the protection follows. Sometimes the protection exists within the hardship itself. Surah Yaseen accompanies you through each of these moments, making what is difficult bearable and making what is bearable meaningful. There is a moment after reciting Surah Yaseen when the believer feels a subtle shift inside, a quiet assurance, a gentle peace, a silent strength. This is the heart responding to divine protection. It is the heart recognizing that even though the future is unknown, it is known to the one who controls it. It is the heart learning that safety is not the absence of risk, but the presence of Allah's care. It is the heart realizing that whatever comes your way has already passed through the mercy of Allah before it reached you. Sometimes the heart wants protection, not just from external harm, but from internal harm, from its own fears, from its own doubts, from its own thoughts, from its own emotional storms. Surah Yaseen protects the believer from the dangers that come from within. It calms the restless mind. It eases the anxious chest. It brings peace to the unsettled heart. It creates spiritual grounding that prevents the soul from falling into despair when challenges come. When you recite Surah Yaseen in the morning, you are not only seeking protection for your body, your health, your circumstances, your opportunities, you are seeking protection for your faith. For the part of you that needs Allah the most, for the part of you that makes you who you are, this is the deepest form of protection Allah grants, because when the heart is protected, everything else becomes manageable. When the heart is protected, even hardship becomes a means of drawing closer to Him. And when hardship becomes a path to Allah, it can no longer destroy you. Every believer has moments where they feel like the world is pushing against them, where misunderstandings grow, where relationships become difficult, where plans fall apart, where unexpected events create emotional storms. In these moments, the believer who began the day with Surah Yaseen stands differently. Their heart is steadier, their soul is calmer, their reliance is deeper. They carry a quiet strength that others do not understand. They carry a spiritual armor that is invisible to everyone except Allah. And this armor is what protects them from collapsing when life becomes overwhelming. There is a wisdom in the timing of reciting Surah Yaseen in the morning. The morning is when the mind is most vulnerable to distraction, when the heart is most vulnerable to fear, when the soul is most vulnerable to spiritual attack. It is the beginning of the day that often determines the emotional tone of the entire day. By placing Surah Yaseen at the start, you are securing your heart before anything else can influence it. You are choosing divine protection before the world has a chance to shake you. Allah protects us in ways we see and in ways we never see. And while we may never know the full extent of what Surah Yaseen protects us from, we feel it in the calmness of our hearts, in the ease of our steps, in the unexpected blessings, in the silent escapes, in the softened trials, in the way things fall into place despite our fear. This is the unseen mercy of Allah unfolding through the recitation of His words.